So Max, thanks a lot for coming on. If you could just tell us a bit of a background about your story and how you got started with the 2 meal day.
Yeah, so never know where to begin with this story, but I'd say we'll work from now backwards. But I've been working as a personal trainer in London for 5 years, having a lot of one-on-one clients, all based around central London. Recently, it's moved more into online coaching, and I have quite a big community with the whole 2 meal day community now, which is great. But before that, I worked in finance for 4 years, so completely and utterly the opposite way of life. I mean, partying, entertaining clients in the office, 7 o'clock in the morning, sitting at a desk all day, eating lunch at my desk. So exactly how you imagine it to be. Before that, I worked in nightclubs in London, and then before that, I was at school. So yeah, I kind of done a bit of everything. As I said, both ends of the health spectrum in quite extreme ways. And essentially what I talk about now, whether it's fasting, improving sleep, connecting with the outdoors, exercise, training, strength, they're all things that I've incorporated into my life, from living very unhealthily to where I am now, and over a long period of time, refined certain processes. And now I'm sharing these processes with other people, because I think living healthy and finding balance in a city like London can be difficult, but actually there's some really clever little tweaks you can make here and there which make a huge difference.
And so for someone listening who isn't so familiar with the term intermittent fasting, I mean, it's become a lot more popular in recent years, but if you had to summarize it quite quickly, how would you summarize it?
So fasting just means not eating. No,
that's the quickest one.
But, so basically, so everyone fasts overnight, and that's why breakfast is called break fast. You're breaking your fast. And there are recognized different processes that happen in the body when you start to extend your overnight fast. Different metabolic changes happen in the body. One of them is you start using fat as a fuel source, your stored energy. So intermittent fasting is just a term that has been coined, so you're incorporating periods of fasting either into your day or into your week. And there are many different methods of doing this. And I should stress, although it's very popular now, it's nothing new. Every ancient religion and culture has been doing it in some way, shape or form, from Christianity to Islam to Judaism to, all of them pretty much. Egyptians, I think, whatever their religion was. So, and it was always used as a kind of a cleansing and healing tool. And it's only now, very recently, are we beginning to scratch the surface of what that is. But it seems fasting does seem to reset the body in quite some amazing ways. And this is why I'm fascinated by it.
Cool. And as you know, I've been doing it for quite a few years now. I think one of the things I struggled with at the beginning was, trying to be too rigid with it all. So making sure I'm, counting the hours, making sure, the eating window is the right length. But I think recently I've realized it's more about that balance, and it kind of becomes, like you've said before, a way of life. How important is it to have that kind of balance?
So this is why I started the 2 meal day, because I stumbled across intermittent fasting by accident when I was traveling around South America. I didn't know what it was initially. I just started doing it without knowing what it was. I then went back to the UK, went back to eating normally, didn't feel as good, put on a bit of weight. Then was like, what on earth was I doing? Why was I so lean? Why did I feel so energized all the time? So then found out I was fasting. So I've experimented with lots and lots of different methods, and then started to incorporate it into my one-on-one clients, and then now ended up becoming the 2 meal day. But the reason that I started the 2 meal day is because, like you say, when people start doing it, they get very restrictive. They get obsessed with the clock. They're counting down the hours until they can eat. They're not eating out for dinner with their friends and stuff like that. And that's just because people are used to restrictive diets and doing things in extreme ways. So for me, the benefits come from intermittent fasting, from learning to listen to your body. And it's only when you start to ignore the clock and start to listen to what's going on inside your body, then do you start to actually change your life. And it's a really empowering thing.
What you say it's empowering. So what? Obviously, there are physical benefits, and they've been well documented. But what would you say are the main kind of mental benefits of fasting in terms of someone's relationship with food can be improved via intermittent fasting?
I usually focus on the 3 main benefits. The first one is weight loss, and that's the reason most people get into it. But the reason that people end up doing it for a long period of time, and why it's become the top lifestyle trend in the past kind of 5 years, is because people report to have more energy overall, and they feel less hungry overall. And there's a reason for this. Digestion takes up a lot of energy, firstly. It's very taxing on the body. Everyone knows what it feels like. You eat a big meal, you feel tired afterwards. You start to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of the rest and digest aspect of the nervous system. And, once you free up that energy for other purposes, it's an incredibly liberating feeling, alongside the fact that fat, like I mentioned earlier, you're resetting your body to use its stored energy, which is body fat. Fat is a very good fuel source for low intensity activities. So your day-to-day activities, you can just be on one stable energy level all day. You're not going to run out of body fat. Everyone has an almost unlimited supply, even me and you with low body fat have a lot. And then also, as you start to get to 13, 14 hours plus fasting, a hormone called norepinephrine is released, which essentially is related to, or is adrenaline, and has a direct effect on your mental alertness. So the combination of these three things has been known to give you like a buzz, and this is what lots of people feel. They end up coming off coffee because they don't need it, it's too much. And then the reason people feel less hungry is because overall, once you stop confusing food with just energy, when you stop constantly supplying your body with energy, which is food, and it starts using its stored energy, your body basically stops thinking that it needs the food for energy. So you feel less hungry overall because it's tapping into its stored energy. So you start to feel what hunger actually is, and that's something that occurs every 16 to 24 hours, not every 3 hours when your blood sugar levels crash and you need more sugar basically to bring them back up. So there's a combination of different things happening, and I think the combination of those three things mean it become a way of life rather than something that you do in the short term.
One of the questions which I hear a lot to do with intermittent fasting, especially for someone who's just getting to grips with it, just heard of it, interested in trying it, is what do they eat? So how does your diet look generally these days?
Yeah, so this is the great thing about intermittent fasting, is that it's unbiased. You could be vegan, you could be pescatarian, you could be vegetarian. It all fits into an intermittent fasting schedule. For me personally, I do eat meat. I'm very conscious of where my meat comes from. I've grown up on farms in the south of France and in the UK, so I'm very aware of the process. But I eat a ton of vegetables. So if you want an example of what my plate looks like, there's probably 3 or 4 vegetables on there. And then there'll be some kind of meat or fish or egg or something like that on there. Very simple cooking. I love Italian cooking and French cooking, Greek cooking, like really good ingredients, but super simple recipes. So it doesn't take long. I don't eat a lot of starchy carbs all the time. I'm a lot less strict with this than I was in the past, but that's just what works for me personally. I get digestive issues if I eat like porridge and bread and pasta and things like that all the time. But yeah, it's nothing complicated, it's just cooking from scratch with fresh ingredients, essentially. Because it's only once the big mistake some people make with fasting is that they think it's a magic pill. So you can eat a lot of people do say eat what you like as long as it's in this time period. That doesn't promote a good relationship with food, and it's not a good thing long term. It's only once you start to nourish your body with real food cooked from scratch do you realize you don't have to eat every 5 seconds, because you're giving your body what it needs. So that's really important.
Nice, yeah. And you mentioned coffee and caffeine. I've heard you mention in the past how you kind of you cycle it, or you don't use it very much. How could you explain how you use caffeine in your diet? So
up until the end of last year, caffeine for me, I drank quite a lot of green tea. I like coffee, but it was always a bit much for me, and I never really it just made me feel a bit anxious and jittery. I did use it as a performance enhancer, and I still do. So I believe that caffeine is if you really want to perform at something and focus at something, whether it's at your job, at work, whether you want to use it as a pre-workout, it's very good. It also blunts pain signals. That's why in particular with workouts, it's very effective. But obviously there's a danger of it being abused, and most people who I see using it are using it just to get to a functioning level. Like they cannot function without it. And that is obviously dependence, and it is a drug. And that's very easy to happen, and so that's why I've always been very wary of it. Recently though, I've started making my own cold brew coffee, which has just completely and utterly changed the game for me. Because I make it myself, I'm in control of the caffeine content. So I don't put as much coffee in, and I brew it for only 12 hours. So it probably has half the amount of caffeine in it. But also, when I did start to ramp up my coffee in December, which because I was going out, I was drinking a bit more, it's December. I fell into that trap, which lots of other people do. I'm someone that cannot drink hot coffee on an empty stomach. It completely destroys my stomach. I actually ended up having IBS symptoms for a good 6 weeks from just drinking black coffee on an empty stomach. And I think a lot of people are maybe experiencing this and don't realize it's from that. But essentially, hot brew coffee is very acidic. And on an empty stomach, that can be problematic for some people, not everyone. The reason cold brew is good because it's a slower brewing process. So you brew it for 12 to 24 hours. It's a naturally less acidic end result, and it actually tastes sweeter because it's less acidic. So it's a completely different taste, and it's much better on the stomach, and it's a lower caffeine content for me. But I still cycle it. So I won't. So I have it about half the days in a month.
Okay. And another thing that you...
But it doesn't break your fast.
It doesn't. Okay. We'll get on to that. Actually.
Okay,
We've got a list of questions about what doesn't break your fast. But one of the other things you've kind of become a proponent of recently is cold water therapy.
Yeah.
You wrote an article for the site actually about it.
Check it out.
Check it out indeed. But what, if you had to summarize the benefits and how you got involved and got interested in it, how would you talk about cold water therapy?
I'll talk about how I got involved with it first, and I'll talk about the benefits. But I have always been aware of cold water therapy as and its benefits for recovery. Because as a sprinter, I trained and competed as a sprinter for 5 years. I used to use it then, but not in the same way that I use it now. And actually, my first experience with cold water therapy was swimming the channel as part of a relay team when I was 14, which was the worst experience of my life. And back then, I was skin and bone. Like I hadn't grown at that point, age 14, and it was horrible. And I didn't have that mind over matter thing that I have now. What got me into cold water therapy recently, it was someone called Wim Hof. I went to a seminar of his. I was aware of what he was doing, saw the Vice documentary, went to the seminar, experienced the breathing technique, the ice, and there's one thing that he said that really resonated with me, and that was that cold water has all these amazing physiological benefits, which I'll get onto in a second, and it's free. And the way he was describing it sounded like he was talking about fasting. You know, it's something that's free, that is natural, and seems to switch on different things in the body that have a positive effect. So that really resonated with me, and it was like, this is, you know, the combination of these two things could be quite powerful. So then I started kind of my own cold water journey, I guess, of just seeing how far I could take it. I mean, not forcing it, but just gradually, you know, I went up to Scotland and ended up like swimming in ice water and stuff like that.
I've seen the photo actually, yeah.
But as far as the benefits go, there are loads of physiological benefits which are quite well documented. It's highly anti-inflammatory, and that's why lots of old people in particular get into it, because they have issues with arthritis, which is an inflammatory disease. Highly anti-inflammatory, which is good because a lot of us are living very inflamed lives with everything that's going with alcohol, lack of sleep, exercising too much, you know, diet. It flushes the lymphatic system, which is essentially like the drainage system for the blood vessels. So you're basically kind of just cleaning the blood vessels, which is a great thing. Boosts the immune system. It's good for the skin. It can make you better able at dealing with cold. So my girlfriend, for example, her entire life is revolved around avoiding the cold, as many women are, because they deal with cold differently. But by exposing yourself to cold, you're building your tolerance to cold. So all those things are great, and also it's been shown to kind of be an alternative to coffee. Like you get a massive rush afterwards. So there are these physical benefits, but actually I think for me the which you get from saunas as well. Very similar benefits from sauna. So any kind of extreme heat or cold stress on the body, and it is stress, makes you better at dealing with stress and switches on amazing things. But with cold water in particular, it's the mental health benefits. So that it's now being looked at for treating certain forms of depression because of the massive rush of endorphins you get afterwards, and it's noticeable. And this is kind of what I think gets people hooked on it, is they're putting themselves through this like pain, and it is pain every time you do it. You get better at preparing for that pain, but it's still painful each time. But afterwards you get that amazing rush. And that will boost your energy all day. It will lift your mood. And I've had friends who have dealt with, depression, and they've come along with me and then started incorporating cold showers, and it really has helped. And it's free and it's natural and it's, But then also I think what I personally really like about it is the mental fortitude aspect. So increasing mental toughness. So, when you're about to get into the cold water and you know how cold it is, you've touched it, your entire being is saying, do not get in. Like every fiber in your body is like, do not get in that water. And by forcing yourself to do it, you are making yourself a stronger person. And even when you're inside, your entire body is like, get the fuck out, get the fuck out. Can I swear?
Well, you have.
And everything else goes out the window. Whatever you're worried about your job, you're worried about money, you're worried about your girlfriend, that is out the window. You are purely focused on the here and now. So it's also an incredibly mindful experience. And overcoming all these thoughts jumping into your head about like getting out and the cold really does have a knock-on effect for the rest of your life. And it's made me a stronger person because of it. And that's why I think it's so powerful. So it has all these physiological benefits, but that in particular, for people that are so used to saying no and staying inside their comfort zones, by doing this, it can really get rid of that bad habit.
Nice. And random question: do you have a specific morning and evening routine that you follow?
Yeah, I do. So it's not something I'm doing every single morning, but like most of the time I am. I go through ins and outs of being good with it, but my morning routine is basically as soon as I get up, I drink a ton of water, like a litre usually. Well, no, not quite a litre, like between half a litre and a litre. Then I stretch like 5 or 10 minutes. It's not yoga, it's just loosening things off in the night. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of the morning routine. It's just ideally getting out of bed within about 5 seconds of waking up. That's a really difficult thing to do sometimes, but you get better at it. And then just drinking water and moving. And then the bedtime routine is a bit more of a process because I do struggle with sleep. Well, I'm someone that finds it difficult to switch off. So if I don't do this routine, I do have difficulty sleeping. So my bedtime routine is at about 9:30, the phone, laptop, TV screens are off. No disruptions from blue light, from social media, keeping me, mentally stimulated. Then I start to dim the lights. It's quite good in this flat because it's quite a dim house anyway. So this is just in line with my body clock, my circadian rhythm. Being exposed to really intense bright lights in the evening is going to disrupt sleep, basically disrupt melatonin secretion, which is the sleep hormone. Once that's happened, I actually clean up, get myself ready for the next day. This is something that I personally do because it helps me to relax, it helps me to wind down. And also, if I have got myself ready for the next day, then I'm not worrying about it in bed because I will sit there and think about it if I haven't done it. So that's, again, just slowly starting to switch off. Then I do more stretching in combination with just breathing. Again, just loosening off tight points from the day. If I've trained, just stretching off the specific areas that I've trained. And this is good because it's improving flexibility on a regular basis, which is important, but also it's releasing tension and helping me sleep better. And then I might read for 10-15 minutes in bed with a very dim light from a book, not off screen. And then I'm asleep.
Nice. And so you've just recently launched Connect Retreats.
Yeah.
So it's all about hiking retreats in the Pyrenees.
Yeah.
Could you give us a bit of a background about it and why you got involved and what you're offering people?
Yeah. So, my own personal health and fitness journey, as it were, is constantly evolving. It's not a static thing. I'm always looking for new ways of improving my life and my clients' lives. And having now lived in London for 10 years, in the past 3 years, I've become, as I've started to get out of London more and be exploring the natural environment more and hiking more myself, I've started to realize how powerful that is for mental health and physical health, but primarily mental health. Just getting out of a city, for me personally, is like immediately I can breathe properly, not only because there's clean air, but also I feel less stressed as soon as I'm out of a city. So I do nothing in half measures. So basically, as I've started to incorporate longer multi-day hikes and I started to get qualified, I've just started to see how people have reacted on my social media with it. People seem to be very inspired by what I'm doing, and they often say that they wish they could do that, something like that, but they don't know where to start. So I'm fortunate enough to have, my girlfriend has a house in the French Pyrenees, like in the middle of the mountains. And I know the region very, very well because I'm actually best friends with her brother, but that's another story. So I've been going there since I was like 10. So I got myself qualified last year and decided to host 2 hiking retreats where I took my 7 of my followers on 2 trips, who paid money to come and do a hike with me, basically. It was kind of a bit of a test, see how it was, see if they enjoyed it, and the whole thing went really well. I loved it, they loved it. It was a really good experience, and it was very well received on social media as well. So I'm just looking at sharing my passion for the outdoors with other people. Having lived and worked in London for 10 years, working in finance as well, and then coming out of that, I really think there is a market for people who want to come and experience like that and improve their physical and mental health. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. I've got 4 this year. It's like, I think there's 2 spaces left if you're listening on the June trip. But next year it will expand even more, and we're building another property on the land, and it won't just be hiking, it will be fitness-based stuff. Because I want it to be kind of like just a little retreat centre where if you want to get out of London, do some things that are active, you can come there, because it's really not that far away from London. It's like 5 hours door to door, from your house to there, including the flights and everything. So yeah, that's kind of it. And I think there's a lot of research going into how, there's definitely higher rates per capita of mental illness in cities, and they're starting to attribute that to lack of green spaces and lack of access to green spaces. And even if they're on green spaces, people aren't recognizing that it's a good thing to go and immerse yourself. So I'm just kind of sharing my passion with people, really.
Nice. And talking about the mental benefits, you yourself, do you meditate?
I don't meditate enough. I go in and out of it. For me, when I hike, it's kind of like meditation. Like I don't listen to music. I'm rarely on my phone. I'm just walking. I'm in the elements. I'm in the moment. But no, it's definitely something I need to do more of, like actual meditation. I'm very aware of the benefits, and whenever I have done it, it has been very beneficial for me.
For anyone watching that wants to stay up to date with what you're doing, where's the best place to stay in touch with you and what you're up to?
Probably the website is the first port of call, so 2mealday.com, and that is the number 2, so 2mealday.com. And then my website, then my Instagram, which is @max.lowery, Lowery. And if you would like to come on a retreat, it's connectretreats.co.uk. And yeah, you can see all the information there.
Nice one. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Thank
Cheers.
you.